So users are groups are managed in AEM. So how we do it? So basically, like whenever someone joins, of course, the user ID is created and permissions is being given to them. But instead of giving the permissions directly to the user, we do is we create groups of users. Like maybe some of the users or some of the authors may have right to just create the content, create pages, and prepare the pages, and they do not have the activation rights. Okay. However, some higher authority persons or authors have the replication right. So what basically we do is we create different groups of users, and then we give the permissions to the group. So if a permission has been given to a group, then those permissions get applied to all the users within that group. Okay, and a group can have like collection of users as well as child. A group can be a child of another group also. Okay, so like here, simple authoring, like here we can go to users. If you want to create a user, like let me just create a user like with your ID.
What is equivalent to roles and rights here, right? Like we create a developer role and then we say a right is like read, write, like that, you know?
Yes. Okay, so what I did is I just created your name and the password also. Use your name of the password. Okay. Here you have the option. If you already have a group, then you can just start searching a group and you can assign it over here. If you don't have, we will go to another stream and there we will. So here your user has been created over. Let me just answer that. If you want to search it, you search it over here. So here it is. Okay. Now if I go, you can go over here again and you can go to the groups. So here you can create a group. Like let me just create a group for you. Like Dojo AEM. So I saved it, sorry. But if I go over here, so this is a simple group has been created and it has 0 members in it. You see the members are 0. If I go over here, it has the member option. The same way where the groups has the member options, where the users has the group option, in the same way group also has the member option. So you can even add the members from here. And even you can see you were able to add any other group as well. Okay, so here I added Folio and simply this. Now if I again go back, and here I have the permissions. So basically, either you can assign the permissions to a group, you can search the group, so you can search the user, and then here you can assign the group. So here I have this, it says it has one member. It's okay, it can have any members, and here is where the permissions you give. So these permissions are called as access control list. Access control list. So if I go, basically see, we saw that day in the CRXD, we saw that day that these are the different hierarchies within our. This is our JCR, that is Java Content Repository. CRXD screen helps us is basically a UI for our JCR, that is Java Content Repository. So every the records in our AEM is stored in JCR, and JCR basically stores it in the form of nodes or resource, and then further properties value pair. Okay. So here what we do is we assign the permissions to these paths only, because these are the paths mainly. These are the paths which we need to assign the permission to. Like if someone has the permission of only read writes on content, then what we will do is we will write add ACL, and then we will give the path content. Okay. Okay, content and whatever privileges that you want to give. Let me say that you just want to give read privilege. So here you have the JCR read. Okay, you can further assign some deep permissions like read only properties and not a node. Here you have the read nodes and not the properties. So if in JC, if you want to perform some read operation programmatically, then using this user, if you are logged in as this user in your code, Okay, when you consider that from your code base, if you want to read something in the JCR, now of course you have to gain a session. And for gaining a session, you can only gain a session for a particular user. That okay, I logged in as a particular user from the code perspective, and then I am performing these much of operation. So consider when you log in with this group, then you can either perform the whole read or read only properties or read only node. So read access control means further if you want to read the only want to know the permissions, that what all permissions that 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 are there on this path. So just let me give a whole permission, JCR read. And I said allow. If further you want to restrict something, that also you can. So here I've given the whole of the permissions. And if you further want to restrict it, you can do it.
Hello.
That's simply added.
The question I have is, like I have created a group, right?
Mhm.
Now, all this group, I need to assign some role, like for example, they are developers. So if I can assign that role, and then for each role, I assign permission, then that is,
Nice.
it becomes scalable, right? So
No,
I'll
but
say,
why do you want to assign a role here? Why, when we are giving permissions, you have a group. When you give that group a name like a developer, like your company name is ABC, then ABC developers. Okay, so that ABC developer group is now being assigned permission. So like, what is role over here? Like,
yeah,
but
so yeah, I see what you're saying. But what I have seen is multiple groups, they like, they so here, there is no role concept here, they just have a permission directly assigned to a group. Like for example, if I need a developer role, now I need to create, instead of, I need to create a group, basically. That's what you're saying, developer group.
yes,
And then I need to assign permissions and then add members to that group. Okay.
yes. Okay. So here, if you want to assign all the permissions, like let's say from the root hierarchy, you will say slash. And here, if you want to assign all the permissions, just say JCR on.
I see.
Now
Okay.
you have all the permissions. Similarly, if you want write permissions, that also you give. There are a lot of different type of permissions.
Yes,
Means
and
deep
so
inside permissions.
can we also assign permission directly to a member also?
Yes, that also you can do here. Just start searching your user. What was your username, Tojo?
Directly we can assign.
Yeah, here you can start assigning. So whatever you permission that you assign to a group, all the members of that group will get that permission. For a particular user, you will get the permissions to that user only. And of course,
So
there is no parent-child. Let me just quickly. And there is no parent-child relation between members. Like there cannot be a child for a user. Okay, only group can have users or members within.
so group cannot have a subgroup.
Yes, group can have a subgroup. I told you this. A group. Like
Then
let me just show it to you.
that's a parent-child relationship, right?
Yes, but not with the user. So user cannot have a child user. That cannot.
That's
In a group,
yeah.
see here we have the administrator group. So this is the group. Whosoever will belong to this group will have all the rights. If I go to this group and here I have members like these are the members. Let me add either your user or either your group. Here I can add, if I say Tojo, it give me both options. So even if I add over here your group, so all the members who belongs to your group will get the administrator. So if I now log out, sign out, and log in with your user, see I'm logged in with your
Then
user.
that subgroup already had some permissions, right? Subgroup
It
already
doesn't
had.
matter. See,
It will
now
override.
it
It
will
will over.
override. See,
Ah,
from parent, the permission get flows down to the bottom hierarchy. Now,
okay.
whatever permissions are missing there in the child, it will automatically get it from the parent. In case, if in child, you give some extra permission, that is okay. So that the child will get those extra permission. Like consider, okay, you give the permission to forget about the administrator that we added Tojo group inside the administrator. So as of now, you just have the Tojo group where you assign the permission. You just assign some read permissions. Now you have 3 or 4 members over there, and for one of the member you want to assign some extra permission. So you can go and explicitly assign that extra permission. So that only user will inherit the permissions. That only user will inherit the permissions from the group as well as will have its own permissions.
Got it. So at the top level, you give the basic foundational permission, and then
Yes.
you add more to specific things to the subgroups.
So basically, yes, permissions in an organization level, permission should not be assigned directly to user. It should be assigned to group only. You just have to segregate and create different groups depending upon your different requirement of the organization. So every organization has different groups, and each group has its own purpose, and different permissions are being assigned to different groups.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's done.
So here we created like all these users group. Okay, let me just show you another thing, which is, so here we are working. This is all I want to tell you, like here I have to tell you, this is all the touch UI screens.
Okay.
What happens is, prior to 6.0, prior to AEM Adobe acquired this product, there were another set of screens, which was classic, which we call it as classic UI screens. If you have worked on Salesforce or other tools, they are also like AWS also. They keep on bringing newer features to their screens or like more better UI interface and all. So same way, initially Adobe, sorry, AEM also has these old screens. These are the old screens where we used to work. Where basically we thought it's the author. So all the authoring was done through these screens only. So everything that you do over here can be done from these new screens or the touch UI screens. So these are called as the touch UI screens. These were the classic UI screens. Okay. So these are the touch UI screens, but after 6.0, Adobe started bringing these touch UI screens because the main issue was that authoring, when I say authoring, like all the digital assets or page creation cannot be done on the classic UI screens through other than desktop. So these screens can only be used through desktop, mobile and laptop, iPad. These screens were not compatible to be used over there. So that is why Adobe came up with these touch UI screens, which help authors to do their tasks without using desktop.
So any
Okay.
device. Okay. So this means this is responsive, in other words.
Yeah, it's responsive. It's basically responsive for different layouts for different devices. Okay. Now I said so till 6.0 or till even 6.2 also it was there, or till 6.3 also it was, even 6.5 also has this welcome, this screen, the classic UI. But Adobe has not been providing any support for this. In case if you face any issue while using any of these, Adobe does not provide any support. So they completely say that our engineering team has been working on the touch UI and classic UI are not being used. Kindly move everything to touch UI. Okay, in case if your authors are still not familiar, then give them a KT, give them a session of how touch UI works. Now, everything that you are able to do from the classic can be done from here. But now all the newer features that Adobe is bringing in the touch UI only and not in the classic UI. So if you see this experience fragment, see this is assets, this is sites. Here you can see websites. So see here if I go to the website, here we have these. Basically through classic also you can see these. If I go to the website, so here also you can see Wipin, Weekend, We Retail. If I go over here, this is like the same way. But these are the classic UI screen. In the same way, if I go over here, you can see this asset, digital assets. So here we maintain all of our assets. Like you remember that day we created a folder, my new folder, I think. Or I think my AEM, which I think this folder is what we did. So this is what we created through the touch UI screen. But we can see it from classic UI screen. So basically the UI. Now the UI has been updated to touch UI. Similarly, there were a lot of other functionalities which are there. All the functionalities that we have in Classic, we have it in Touch. But Touch is Adobe is bringing newer feature only in Touch and not in Classic. Okay. So I told you the reason. Okay. And after 6.0, they started bringing, and now 6.5 they have, after I think 6.3 they they stopped providing the support, and now in Adobe as a cloud it's totally blocked. You cannot
Oh,
even open the classic UI screens.
okay.
These classic UI screens are not even available, or they are blocked, whatever you can say, but they are not there in cloud. It's only touch UI screens which are available
In the cloud. Okay.
in the cloud. Okay, when we work on components, like here we open the component. So basically, what was the major one of the main tasks when you move from classic to touch? Of course, it's the authoring. Maximum it is the authoring. Quite a lot it is an authoring, but along with that, you see all our dialogues, our component dialogues, all our dialogues. The dialogues we have it within our component. So sorry, we went to V detail. So here we open there. So you see all these are my dialogues for my touch UI. So when we develop our components, I told you components has one this thing that is called as dialogue, where authors input their values. So okay, this is the dialogue.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now further we have this, a component has dialogue plus its backend stuff, which reads these value and display it on further on the page. So the component has basically a dialogue, and HTML, and some backend Java files. Okay. Now this dialogue, you see, this is a touch UI dialogue.
Okay.
Similarly, classic UI, in classic UI, the components were developed in a different way. These dialogue mainly were developed in a different way. And for that, a different technology or different thing was used to develop this component basically. Now, touch is altogether a different way. So now it's all touch. So when you basically do a migration from classic to touch, then you also have to move your components to make it touch compatible. Okay, that is also a development task. That is a single development task that you have to do. Plus, there may be few where you may have to move some of your configuration, but that is a part of your AEM upgrade, because they keep on changing their hierarchy where you can place your code. But when you move from classic to touch, basically all the dialogues has to be updated from classic to touch. In previously or now, like now even we have it, they provided a tool which helps us in smoothly migrating the components from basically the dialogues of the component from classic to touch. So that tool does few of the migration, but in case if you have done some customization in your classic your dialog, so that it cannot do. So you have to then manually like fix those things.
So this package manager helps here or no?
Package manager, like how do you think package manager helps you?
So package manager only used for content moving?
We are not talking about content moving, we are talking about components.
Yeah, that's what package manager only used for moving content from one place to other.
Yes, but here we are talking about components. Why?
So
How does
package,
this?
okay. Package manager will not be used. Okay, so
But
the
that
components do at AEM has any tools by default or
yes, there is a tool.
okay.
Basically, there is a modernization tool. If you search on that, you will find that there is a modernization tool. Or just simply search how would you migrate classic UI component to touch UI.
Okay.
It will give you the whole info.
Modernization tool is Adobe's tool or outside?
Yes, it's Adobe.
Adobe modernization.
So
Okay.
this was about the classic UI and touch UI. Yes, that previously it was all classic. Now we are using all together. Everything is in touch. Okay. There are few screens which are still on classic. So even if you remember, like when I go over this hammer and I go to the deployment, you see, when I went to this replication, it took me to this screen replication. So here also you have in the classic UI screen, here also I have this replication. So it will take me to the same screen. This only.
Okay.
Okay. So there are few screens which are still based on the classic UI, but Yeah, till even on the latest version of AEM, that is 6.5. But going forward on going forward on Adobe as a cloud, these classic streams have totally been removed and they're no longer in use. And this replication screen is also all go.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
going forward on Adobe as a cloud, it's not the replication way of working that is used, but it's a distribution way of that is used. Okay, that is altogether a different concept.
Okay.
Okay. Let's move ahead and let me just okay. So we discussed a lot about authoring and all. We discussed few of these. Okay, experience segment I will tell you later. We discussed
So,
about this.
Sanav, that reminds me, I just want to know what exactly we covered so far. And, I know that we were talking, but then from a content authoring perspective, right? So what all things we covered?
So we have covered about the authoring, how you create the pages, how replication works. Should I write down all these things?
Yeah, because then I know what to practice or what to.
AEM, AEM intro. Why
Okay.
would you use intro? So I am AEM using AEM intro. Okay, CMS.
Yeah.
Okay, about this AEM intro. A bit
Yeah.
about component, bit on component intro. Okay, in the last I will say component intro.
Okay.
Authoring, replication,
Okay.
package manager. Okay, and we discussed about replication and its demo, everything we did.
Yeah.
Why we use package manager we discussed and a bit on permissions. This is security users,
Yeah. Security we discussed. Yeah.
group and permission.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
and classic versus touch.
Hmm.
Okay, so these assets, how assets are being asset manager, package manager, replication, DAM, digital asset manager. We discussed about this. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
Asset manager. Okay. Discussed about, yeah.
Now let's start with some backend things of creating a new project and working from there. Okay, let me open a code base. So let me go over here and let me. So what here you can see if you wanted to create a new code base, see here you have this simple code base. You see there are so many folders over here and each folder would have so many other things and all these things, like a lot of other things. Okay. So if you will start or if you have to create this code base from scratch by yourself, then of course it won't be possible. You will make a lot of mistakes and of course that cannot be done.
So how we get the code bases are like when
That's what
you.
I'm telling you. That's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm about to tell you. How you get this code. Okay. So I told you you need to have Java plus Maven. Maven on your system. I told you the purpose of Maven. It is your Maven is used for what Maven is a code build plus deployment tool. Okay. But here it has got an added responsibility of creating your code base. Okay. So here, of course, Maven, whenever you will use with Java, any simple Java project, there you can build the code base and deploy the code base. Okay. But here, instead of creating the code base from scratch, you can, what Maven does, it gives us a Maven in collaboration with AEM, they developed a simple command that will help you in building the code base from scratch. So here, let me just try to get that command. Yeah, it's over here. It is called as Maven archetype command. Remember Maven archetype. So Maven archetype, what it does is they help us in building the project from scratch. So what we do is we have this command. We just give some basic information that okay, what is the name of your project? Let me say name it as project and the app ID is Tojo. Okay, I'm just using your name, and here it's saying what will be the code base, project structure, or project packages name, all those things, just basic information. And what version are we using for this Maven archive command is we are using the 23 version. Okay, since we are working on AEM 6.5, so this is the best compatible or the latest compatible version which works with 6.5. So if you want to work on Adobe as a cloud, so Adobe as a cloud has some for working on Adobe as a cloud. 23 or 24 is the starting one, and I think right now we have the latest version as 28 or 29, which works with Adobe as a cloud. Since we are on 6.5, so this is the best version for it. This command will remain like this. You don't have to do anything. We just provide what AEM version are we using. We like the code that we will develop with this. In which version of AEM are we going to deploy? Plus some basic details of the project. Like here we say the project package name, the project, these basic things. Nothing much. So here if I will just simply write it, this command may fail because my system is not compatible. I've tried this, but it creates my whole code base, whole my project or code base. So if I will build this in a minute, it will. So if I go over here, you will see that it will create a folder with the name Tojo. Here you can see Tojo is over here, and also it created each and everything. So all the things which are required, even there are so many things which we don't even need. I will tell you what is the purpose of each and everything, and then we will see. Okay. So somehow it has been failed because of my incompatibility of my system. But yes, it has completely built up with it. Okay. Let me tell you the purpose of these. So you see, you have the UI front end. Basically, UI front end are nothing, but of course, as you can see from the name, whichever front end technology that you use, you can work over there. And for the rest too, you can either remove, like, whether you are working on some Angular, then you can use this and you can remove these two. Okay. Similarly, if you're using some simple some simple thing, then for over here, or maybe for React, you can place it over here. Okay. Then you have this dispatcher. These two are for dispatcher.
Yeah.
So here I told you everything that okay, this is your author and this is your publisher, how you replicate and all. Here we said that there will be a layer of dispatcher which will the responsibility of this will be caching and load balancing. So this dispatcher code sits over here, but ultimately it does not sit, or this code does not go in your AEM server, or it does not sit within AEM server. So what happens is the AEM server is over here. Either this is an AEM server, this is an AEM server, this is an AEM server. What we do is we used another Apache server, Apache HTTP server, and there we used to deploy this dispatcher modules. So every company, when they start working, they of course they will have an AEM code as well. Also, they will also have an Apache HTTP server, and within that Apache HTTP server, they will deploy this dispatcher code. This dispatcher code will then be deployed over there and will do the load balancing and caching. So here in the dispatcher, we will write all these. Okay. All contains, all is nothing. This is an empty. Like here, if you will go inside the SRC, inside the main, inside content, meta, nothing. Like here, you won't find any code base. Like this is all empty. Nothing. No code base over here. Okay. But here, what happens is when you build and deploy, when you build your code base, then what happens? I told you everything is in the form of packages. Like here also, if I go to the package manager, let me go. Okay, sorry, it's CRX. Okay, so everything that gets installed inside our AEM is in the form of packages only. Whatever we create, even it's in the form of packages mainly. That's it. So here also, when we build our code, what happens is ultimately, when we build our whole code base, it creates a package out of it, that is a zip out of it, and that zip which contains the code from all of these or whatever we need. Like if we do not need this dispatcher code, or if we do not need this UI front-end code, then remaining this for code from all the above folders or all the above modules will be zipped into this all folder. So every like all folder, when we will start building our code, it will create a target folder, and within that target folder, that zip will be stored, and that zip will ultimately get deployed in our AEM instance. And that zip, even if you see, it's a two-way step. I told you. First is it does the building, code building. Code building is creating your zip and storing it inside the over here, and then deploying. So what deployment does is it basically takes your zip and deploys it inside your AEM through package manager. So even if you do not want to deploy your code base through the command, then also you can do it manually by taking that zip and installing it inside the AEM through package manager. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, sir.
So here we have all these, and okay, I told you about all where there is no code, but basically all the compiled code in the form of zip is stored over here. Core contain all your backend Java code. All the backend Java code, Java files that you write will be stored. You will write it over here. Or everything in the backend Java, when you feel that okay, some backend service or servlet or something has to be written, will be written over here inside the code. Now, all the Java files are created in the form of .java. Like if you write any file, my file, that will be like created in the form of .java. And when you compile them, they get compiled in the form of .class. I think that's something similar is with .NET as well. In maybe in some other form.
Yeah.
Okay. When you have a lot of files, then what you do is you compile all those files in the form of .class, and then you form a jar out of it in time. Yeah. So we have the jar in AEM as well. So what happens is when you compile your backend code, all those files get compiled and form a jar out of it. Okay. And what happens, that jar also will get merged into the final zip. So final zip will have the other code as well as your this jar as well. But in AEM, just one more thing, in AEM we do not call them as jar, we call them as bundles. So there is a minor difference between a jar and a bundle, which I will tell you later. Okay. You have this IT test for writing your test cases. IT launch, I haven't used it. What is the purpose of this? Like, I don't know. What happens is that with the newer versions, they keep on releasing some new things. And I don't know what is this IT launcher. Like with the newer versions of Maven archetype, like here I'm using the 23 version. With newer versions, they keep on releasing some newer thing. Like earlier, we used to have only one single folder, UI front end, where our front end, where basically for better modularity, we write all our front end code. But now they have segregated it into 3 folders.
So in the first day, you were mentioning about a launch, right? Launch is to message.
No, that was Adobe launch. That is something different. This is not that launch. That was Adobe launch. Okay. Adobe launch is to collect all your events and pass it on to Adobe Analytics. Adobe Analytics basically is the UI which has to perform a dashboard and see. This is, I don't know what is.
That is not just for Adobe Analytics, right? It can be used for any.
That is just for analytics. What I said is, if you want to use some custom tool other than launch, which can populate the analytics events to multiple tools, that you can use. Like I remember there is an Ensighten tool where you can do some customization, and then you can push those events or populate those events to multiple these analytics tool like Google Analytics, Adobe Analytics, or other analytics tool as well. Okay.
Or any systems for that matter, right? not
See,
necessarily.
of course, in case if you are using any other different, then you may have to do some customization. I'm not sure on that. But Adobe Launch is for Adobe Analytics.
Okay, only Adobe. Okay.
This is pretty important, UI apps. UI apps actually tell you everything what you have in your apps. So here, whatever you have in your apps, you open the CRXD. Okay, whatever you have it over here inside apps is over here, this UI app. So I told you, I think, I don't know if I told you or not, all your code, you as a developer, or we as a developer, all your code will sit below the apps hierarchy.
Yeah, you mentioned. Yeah.
Okay. So all our code sits below the apps hierarchy, and that what we develop over, or that what we uh, create over here. So all our components, some basic configurations are being created over here.
Yeah.
Okay, UI apps. So if I go over here, you see if I go inside the SRC main content, here you see the JCR root. So JCR root, whenever you see JCR root, it starts indicating this thing, JCR root. Okay, this is JCR root. You can see the top slash.
Yeah.
After that, you get the apps. Oh, and below the apps, you have the other thing. MSM Sling Tojo. As of now, we haven't deployed this. We neither have we built this code, neither we have deployed this code. As of now, we won't be having this Tojo folder over here. You cannot see now. And you see Tojo. No? But once we will build and deploy, you will see this Tojo folder inside below our apps. Okay? So we have this UI apps and then UI app structure. UI app structure is nothing. This is some mandatory AEM thing that you need to tell this code base about the structure of your AEM. Oh, sorry, apps hierarchy in AEM. If I will go, it is just empty. You will see there won't be anything. There won't. But it's all parent form.xml. So have you ever worked with Maven before?
No.
Okay, so I would recommend you get a bit idea about Maven. Like which build and deployment tool have you used prior? How do
build deployment? Usually the visual TFS, right? That is version control and then build. Maven and DevOps side, I haven't worked much. I mean, like the whole.
No worries.
The current project, I think they are using. Let me think. Jenkins.
Jenkins is basically for creating the pipelines.
Pipeline, yeah.
Pipeline
and then Maven only they are using. I think the current.
Yes, of course. Most of the companies use Maven only, and I told you an alternative tool that is Gradle. Some of the companies are moving to Gradle. Even that is also a build and deploy tool.
Okay.
But
I think
Maven is
Adobe they are using only Maven. I think. Yeah.
90% of the, I think, what I've seen is makes the use of Maven only. Gradle has just been introduced, and this companies have started using Gradle instead of Maven. But I'm not sure how successful is that.
Maven, and then GitHub, they get the code from GitHub, right? Yeah.
So GitHub is a repository. That is your repository. Maven is something a build and deployment. And Jenkins is your pipeline. So you create pipelines. So instead of writing all the code commands manually, you use Jenkins where you directly start creating the pipelines, and through that pipeline behind the code execute, like the build and deployment code execute, and by just clicking that pipeline or starting that pipeline, your code get built and deployed to your AEM instance. Yeah. Basically, Jenkins is for creating your pipelines.
Yeah. Okay. And also in our case, from Jira itself, we will trigger. For example, in Jira, one story is done, right? And they will mark ready to build. When there itself, it's complete automation, like trigger the pipeline and everything, it will go.
Yeah, means there is an integration between Jira, Confluence, and other tools. So they provide different plugins actually.
Yeah.
Different
plugins. From Jira, what they do, they all just like this publish the events only, and then it goes to Kafka. SnapLogic, there's a processing tool. So it picks that and process it. So similar like launch. There's something called SnapLogic.
Okay. So UI structure actually tells it nothing, but it tells about the structure of your app. So if I open this, it will only give you the folder name, which will be there inside the apps hierarchy. If I go below, so it shows you that, okay, filter root, here you only provide the path. Like here you have the apps, below the apps, you have the apps, link apps. Like this is some basically to tell you about the structure or the parent folders within the apps hierarchy. That's what we do over here with the UI app structure. Okay, so the main ones are, of course, the core. All I already told you, it's nothing, it's empty. All the compiled, final compiled code, when you compile your whole code base, that zip which contains even your bundle. So I'm not saying, now I'm not going to say jar, it's all bundles. Remember, bundles, I will tell you what is the difference between a bundle and a jar. But as of now, it's all bundle, which is stored in core. And of course, ultimately it get merged into the zip of here, and that zip get deployed. I told you about dispatcher. So see, dispatcher for them, for dispatcher also they have different folders. So in case if you are using your on-prem dispatcher, then you will create your code inside this. If you're using some cloud, because when you go on cloud, your dispatcher code also the whole configuration of dispatcher code gets changed. Like in on-prem, you can do everything. You can do anything with your dispatcher code. Like if you want to use any third-party tool or any third-party module, that also you can use within dispatcher. But they are going forward in cloud. There is a whole lot of restriction. Even they have placed such a restriction that they have they have set or they have like they have created different files, and within that file they have provided a like empty space where only you can place your code, and a type of code can be placed in a specific file at that only place. Like they have put restriction to this much level. So of course, while writing the code and from this perspective, a lot of restrictions have been done. You cannot do any customization and all going forward on cloud. But to many extent, they have made the life easier as well. So that is why when we move to cloud, like whole dispatcher code has to be rewrite, because the way in which it is written on-prem, it's totally different to that on cloud. And a whole lot of code has to be like when if you plan or if your company plans to move to Adobe Cloud, then a lot of things becomes deprecated and are not being used in the similar way on cloud. Like we discussed about replications. Okay, we discussed about replications. Okay, I'm just digressing from this, but I'm just telling you, like we discussed about replication. So as of now, I told you that okay, this is our deployment and this is our application. But going forward, it does not use the replication way, it uses the distribution way. So here you remember we were able to create our own replication agent. We added a new server and we were able to create a new replication agent. But that's not the case going forward on cloud, because here all the servers, it's all being created and managed by Adobe only. So here we do not have any control over replication or the replication agent. I tell you what happens is I give you a scenario. I tell you a scenario. I tell you, like consider you are using a CDN. Okay. CDN that caches your pages. Okay.
Yeah.
Now consider, okay, now take an example when what happens is firstly, okay, so here request I told you from the end user comes to a dispatcher, but directly some companies, okay, they say that okay, dispatcher is of course mandatory when you are using AEM. But CDN is not mandatory. CDN is up to companies' policy that whether they want to use a CDN or not. If it's simple site, a simple site which is used within India or within some region of India, why would they use CDN? But if it's a global site, then of course they would think of using an AEM, but they would think of using an CDN. Okay. So CDN here is a content delivery network which helps you in further caching and providing web layer and like you can cache everything, like a lot of things can be done on CDN. It helps
So
you in faster delivery.
CDN is only basically used for this one images and digital files.
No, everything can be cached over there. See,
Okay,
what is
then
the purpose of CDN is that CDN is like it's not that like see when we have our server, it will state it at it's as it on its location only. We created our server and it will be over there only. But with CDN is like CDN, every company, multiple companies have their CDN, and it's like the servers are located in different locations. So when a page or whenever a content or any image or anything, like in our case, the whole page will be cached. Then with CDN, it's like it will be cached on all those servers of CDN. So if someone hits from India, then the request will land to the nearest CDN server and we'll see if the page is cached over there. Of course, it should be cached.
So
And then it
basically,
will be served over from there.
it's similar to dispatcher. It's equivalent to
Dispatcher
dispatcher.
is a single server. Dispatcher is not that it has multiple servers located in different locations. CDN is a general concept. It's okay. CDN is nothing to do with AEM or dispatcher. CDN is a general concept. The purpose of CDN is to provide you the content in the fastest possible way through the nearest server which is available to the end user. Like I am hitting a request, I am sending a request to an website. Consider there is a website Amazon.com. Okay, I'm making a request to Amazon. Of course, what Amazon will do, it will see which is the nearest CDN or which is the nearest server to my location. It will serve the content from there because the content will be cached on that CDN server. If you are hitting from US, then it will see which is your nearest server, which is the server nearest to you, and the cached content from you will be sent over there, will be sent back to you.
Now, how the CDN can be used here? Now, you said
So if
that.
you place a layer of CDN over here, what will happen is it will be above dispatcher. So what will happen is when the user will come over here. Let me use a pencil. So user will come over here, CDN.
Okay. So when we publish something, right, from content manager, right, when you publish to publish instance, automatically one copy will go to dispatcher. Will one copy will go to CDN also?
That depends upon how you have made your configurations. Have you enabled the caching on CDN or not? Have you said your server that your See, I'm not going to go that much deep because there are different concepts of how your CDN behaves and
Yeah,
how
but
your
then
AEM behaves.
we are not
But you need to give instruction to CDN as well and your server as well, your AEM instance as well, that the page should get cached. There are certain headers which are set. There are certain response headers are being set, which are obeyed by your CDN as well as the end user browser. So we say that the end browser has cached your page because it's not with all the sites. But if a site sends some headers, those headers are being obeyed by all the browsers as well as your CDNs as well. So through that way, your CDN will cache that content which will have those headers. But you need to make sure the caching at CDN should also be enabled. By default, of course, your browser also caches, but depending upon what response headers are being sent from your site.
Yeah. So if CDN, if we are not enabling the cache, then why we are using CDN? That's no use.
Of course, there are some companies which only want to use it as a layer of WAF. As from security perspective, they want to use it. They do not want to use caching feature of that. There's so many things which CDN provides. It's not that just caching or it's not just WAF. You can do redirects from here as well. Like consider you want to do a 301 redirect. Now, you know that there is a 301 redirect. Why do you want the request to come to your AEM and from there you do a 301 redirect? Why don't you redirect it from here only? Of course, it will prevent and hit to your server, load to your server. So that also you can do. There's so many things that you can do from CDN. It's not that just caching or just WAF or just even redirect. There are other things as well you can do. Okay.
When dispatcher is there, there is already a cache mechanism.
But why do you want the request to land on your dispatcher if you can serve it from your CDN?
Okay. So you're saying one more cache on top of one cache,
Yes, another cache. So for multilingual, multi-regional sites, of course, you have CDNs as well, which helps you in caching and load balancing. Now I told you about CDN as well. Now why was I discussing CDN is because during replication, when you activate any page, your cache should get cleaned on your dispatcher as well as your CDN as well. Got my point? Because your dispatcher may have cached that page and your CDN must have cached that page. So when you activate any page, then a request should be sent to clean the that thing on dispatcher and on CDN. But since dispatcher is now a part of AEM, so there is a by default configuration which does that. So there is an application, there is another agent which is called as dispatcher flush agent, which when you will soothe those replication, you will see that dispatcher flush agent, which will automatically clean the dispatcher cache. But for cleaning the cache of CDN, you have to explicitly write something, write some code. Okay. So what previously we used to have is let me just complete. Then you please ask your question. So for dispatcher, we have an out-of-box agent that is called a dispatcher flush. But what is the best practice for cleaning the CDN caching is we used to create our custom replication agent so when we activate any page, of course the request will be sent to AEM where it will make the content available on publisher. Another request from another agent will be sent to dispatcher, and a custom agent we will create that will send to the CDN to clean its cache. But all those things were there till 6.5, but are no longer on cloud. So if you're using some cloud, there is altogether, you cannot create a custom replication agent to clean the CDN cache, but altogether a different way has to be found.
Oh, okay. Those are the differences from in the cloud. Okay.
Yes, that's like they have put a lot of restrictions in the code, what all you can do, a lot of APIs which we were able to use on 6.5, those have been removed. So altogether, internal way of working of Adobe Cloud is altogether changed. Okay. I told you about CDN because I wanted to let you know this thing. That there's other than this, there are a lot of other things happening. But I told you about CDN just because of this.
Okay. So yeah, I definitely would love to have those kind of discussions. Something like from a scaling perspective, right? So you were touching in that and multilingual. Those are the key discussions I would like to have, because the other things when I play, a lot of things I can cover, but then these things, definitely your experience definitely I like. And one thing the question I was going to ask is when you say clearing CDN, right? Clearing CDN. So you meant to say overwrite with the new content, right? Deleting the old content, put the new one.
It does not mean overriding. So there is no direct way you just have to find whether your CDN is compatible to get newer content. But what by that I mean is when you activate the page should clear the cache at dispatcher level as well as at the CDN level. So the cache at CDN level should be cleaned, because if that page is cached over here, the end user will make a request. It will see that, okay, the page is cached. It will be served from there only. And the request will never come to your dispatcher or to your AEM. Got my point?
Okay. So
the stale content will be served.
I see. Now, what point the caching will happen? Like, okay, you cleared it. And then who will fill this cache?
The next time when a request will made, it will see that the CDN, there is no content over there. Dispatcher does not have. The publisher has. Now from publisher, the request will be sent back. Like, I'm not able to use this.
Got it. Send back to dispatcher.
Dispatcher will see that, okay, it does not have it. Then it will cache it. And our CDN, it depends upon what CDN are you using, how does it caches the content. Depending upon that, you have to send those things to your CDN, and your CDN will also start caching. So for different CDNs, it's different ways of caching.
Then CDN will deliver to client, end user.
Yes. And it will also cache it on its own. But how CDN over here also delivers to the end user will also cache it. It depends upon the CDN, how that CDN behaves. So different companies are different, has CDN, and how do CDN works depend upon that company's ways of it. Most of the time, I am now telling you, it is depending upon the response header. When you serve a page, it also has response headers in. Depending upon that, it
clears or not.
It caches the page. Clearing the cache is done by the replication agent. One way of clearing the cache is that you send a request to your dispatcher to clear the cache. So what we will do is the dispatcher, your CDN, what it does is it provides you with APIs, all the CDNs. Those APIs, I'm telling you as a random example, those APIs are different APIs, like to cache the page or to cache the whole hierarchy or to add any redirect route. All these can be done through API call. So what from your code you will do is you will write a custom replication agent which will trigger that API call and will clear the cache at your CDN. That you will do. And why do you want to create a custom replication agent is because with every activation of page or every activation on any asset, that agent should automatically get triggered. That is why we will use a replication agent over here. Okay, like we created the 4503, 4504. Similar way, you will create another application agent, which will behind the scene, which you will write some custom code, and that will make an API call to your CDN.
Okay. So when we activate a page, one copy will go to the publisher, right? Publish instance. Yes. And then also the replication agent will have additional API calls to, if we implement that way, then it will have additional copy to clear dispatcher and CDN cache.
Yes, but that will altogether be a separate application.
Separate. Yeah.
For cleaning the dispatcher cache, there is already one which Adobe by default provides, AEM by default. For CDN cleaning, CDN cache, because CDN is nothing to do with AEM. It's altogether a separate product.
Yeah, got it. Dispatcher is basically dispatcher has a dispatcher module installed.
Yes, on Apache HTTP server. So
that is the reason.
So if you have used Apache HTTP server, you have different modules. One is redirect module through which you can write the 301 or 302 redirects. Other modules are also there. One of them is dispatcher. Now, going forward on cloud, you can even use some custom module, like Google even provided a module which is further which is further for performance perspective. What that module does is it reduces the size of your JS and CSS, basically compress them, remove the empty spaces, and there were a lot of functionality which you can do with that module. There are many other modules. I'm just taking an example. So you can add that custom module, Google module on your own prem, but on cloud, it's restricted. You can only use the module which by default cloud provides, and you cannot use any other module. So there are a lot of things. Going forward on cloud, you have to make a lot of things as per your code to make your code compatible. Okay. Okay. So we discuss about these. Okay. The last one is the UI content. I told you content is always a part of your server. Always a part of server. But what happens is sometimes some of the content, like the root hierarchies, like here, if you see there are root hierarchies, like here we have the root hierarchies. Sometimes the root hierarchies of the website, you make it as part of your code base. You commit in those code base plus some of the test pages as well. So why so? Because when you go to when you build another server from scratch, then at least you have the root hierarchy, and then you can create some of your pages by yourself. Further, of course, to get all the pages, you have to use package manager. But as of now, once you deploy your code, if you want just to create few pages, then at least you have the initial hierarchy, then that's what you can create. So if I go to the Tojo and if I go to the UI content, see it will create a default hierarchy for you. If I go inside here, you see it created my JCR root, and below the JCR root, which folder should be there? Tell me which folder should be there.
Which one?
Content folder. Yes. Here you will see you have the content folder. With the content, it will create the hierarchy for even the tab, even for your Tojo. Tojo is a new site hierarchy that it will create. Below Tojo, you will see it created the US and EN and a simple page as well. Like a complete hierarchy it created. So once we will build and deploy this code, you will see that there is a Tojo project over here will get created, like we have the Pippin, and similarly it will have the root hierarchy. Similarly for DAM also it will create an initial hierarchy and a folder and a simple asset as well. And when we will discuss about experience, I mean, we will see what is.
I see. So all this hierarchy in the code base, if code base have to do that, okay, code base will do. Okay, inside the code base you have dot content that that will create, that has the basic. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so that structure is inside the JCR repository, right? So JCR repository has both apps and content. Now the code base we are talking about is only applicable to apps, right? Correctly, no?
Yes.
Apps code base. Maven is generating that is what you mentioned, right? Maven is generating that code base.
Yes.
Now, why that content you now linked that structure, and why there is a content? Can you explain one more? That's what that link.
That is inside the UI apps. UI apps contains all the apps thing.
Yes.
Apps thing. And
Yeah.
UI content contains the basic structure of your / content. Even if you do not want to deploy it, even if you do not want that, okay, I do not want my base structure of content, that also you can do. So you can simply either remove this or we can comment this.
Okay, now what is the advantage of having that UI.content and inside you showed me the structure?
See, I tell you the. See, basic structure is there, UI content. Inside the UI content, you have the basic structure. Now you go and build your new server. Today you have an existing server where you have created a lot of pages. That's okay. But now you wanted to create another server, maybe a dev server. So dev server, when you start building, you want the whole code base. One way is, of course, you will create the package and then you will deploy. But you just wanted to test few of the things. Just wanted to create few dummy pages and test few of the things. Okay. You have introduced some newer functionality and for which you have created new server. So instead of, then you can use this UI content. It will create a base structure, base content structure for you. Within that, you can create few of your dummy pages to test the thing. Instead of getting the through package manager, getting from one server to another, that is also of course a way. And whatever way you like, you can do. Even if you do not want this UI content, that also you can comment it out. Just
so what you're saying is, in order to test our code, you can have some sample contents here inside.
Exactly.
Okay.
A sample project hierarchy created for your website, upcoming website. Now the thing is, now the question that should have come from your side is, you have your sample hierarchy over here. I first time I deployed my code base. That's okay. My sample hierarchy got created, and then further on I created hundreds of pages. Now, if I again deploy this code, I do not have those hundreds of pages over here. Neither I will commit it in my code base. So when I will deploy this code base again, sample hierarchy will override those hundreds of pages, isn't it?
Correct.
So what we do is, just for the first time, I will have this UI content, and then further I will comment this.
Comment this. Okay. Nice. So comment this in the Maven options.
Yeah, in the Maven option. So here we have the pom.xml, which is the main configuration file. I opened this. You say it is saying that all the modules that will be there. And why I said you use 450 and 4502 is by default AEM also, by default Maven also, when it creates the project, it uses these only ports for building and deploying. Okay, this is another reason. Let me fastly do comment what all modules I do not need. Of course, the UI, this is not a UI training, so I am removing all the UI things. Dispatcher, of course, is not a part, so I am removing all these. I am commenting all as well. So I commented. Why is okay? Let me move this as well over here to the bottom. Okay, just move it and okay. And this UI test also, we are not going to talk about test, and the launch also. So what I will do is I will start the comments from here. These are our main things. The rest are our main things. So here. Okay. All where our main code core, where your backend, all the components, all the things fits over here, and then you have the UI content. Okay, before this, let me just tell you one more thing. Your component sits below the apps, but some of your integration configurations that you like, you want to connect to some target or launch, those configurations for those that you do behind the scene, it sits below the conf folder. So conf folder is for that. So conf folder is where your all the configuration sits, and also the templates, the template that we will create inside in AEM, that also will sit over here. I will
I
tell
see.
you the usage of this. Apps is where your code sits. Also inside CAP, conf is also where your code sits. Rest all is taken by AEM. So all the Adobe code sits below the libs hierarchy. Like you see all these screens. How these screens are built because there is some code that sits below the libs hierarchy which does this. Similarly, ETC is also being taken by the Adobe only. So all these, like you remember, like we created the we created what? The replication agent. So all those some configuration and all the AEM code also sits below ETC. But all the basically all the AEM out like Adobe is uh, GSPs or all that core code sits below the libs. But some configurations and more of configuration code of Adobe sits below ETC. You
Okay.
created your users and groups and permissions, all those sits below the home hierarchy. So you remember you created the user Dojo, so somewhere it will be over here, maybe in some of the folder. Randomly it gets
Oh,
stored. If you see, it's over here, Dojo.
I see.
Okay. So all the users group are being stored below the home hierarchy. Content
Okay.
hierarchy we already discussed. This is the pretty important. All the authoring work goes below over here. We'll
Oh,
discuss about bin later. Okay. We have our oak indexes. So internally you perform some search. Like you integrated, you have a search component. So what is, of course, you would need a search engine through which you can perform search. Okay. AEM provides its API through which you can perform search, but behind the scene or within AEM, you need a search engine. So here in AEM, make the use of an inbuilt search engine that is called as Lucene. So Lucene is a search engine that is being used within AEM to perform search, and the indexes for fastening that search is being can be created over here. And these are all the default indexes which are created by AEM itself. Because here you see
what?
everywhere you have the search. So
Lucene.
fastening
Okay.
the search, it
Hmm.
has indexes over here. You can even create your custom indexes in your code, and then you can further deploy it over here.
Hmm.
There is somewhere you can where AEM also stores some of its variables or some of its see where is something used. I consider you are hitting some third party, okay, and you
Hmm.
get a JSON out of it. Where in AEM would you store that JSON? Is somewhere in the bare hierarchy. In the same way, like all those, like if you want to take some backup or something like those can be stored inside the bare hierarchy. Like see, AEM maintains the auditing, like who audited which page, who authored which page at what particular time. So they maintain the report over here in where audit. Similarly, like those sort of things are being stored inside the hierarchy. Even you can use Adobe has its own has its own code over here. Plus, you can also store like this is the place where what you will do is I told you like if you get some data you want to store it, you can store it over here. So storing some backup or storing some files for temporary purpose, you can do it inside the web.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, what is this? I think this is some temporary storage or some like maybe some caching or something like that. Like temporary storage, this is of no use. Okay, we discussed about this home, etc, content, conf. Then I will tell you later when we discuss the sublet.
Hmm.
And these are some rep policy. Okay, the rep policy I tell you. You remember when we were assigning the permissions, what we do is we create the permissions and then we assign it inside the permissions when we assign it at a particular path. Like here, eh, for the apps hierarchy, there is an allow permission of GCR read. So what happens is, what happens behind the scene is that this rep policies get created. So inside apps also, you have the rep policy. Similarly, for the root folder, you have the rep policy. The rep policy, either we give the allow permission and we deny. These permissions actually, whatever we assign from here, for that path gets stored, these rep policies get stored over there, and this here tells whether the permission was allow or deny and what was that permission, whether it was a read permission, whether that was a write permission, what type of permission, and to which particular user. So if I click on allow, so here it says the principal name is this. So this particular was either the user or group to whom the permission was assigned, and what was the privilege that was assigned? It was the read permission. Okay. So actually, it's not that the permissions are stored in the home. Users and groups are stored in the home. Permissions are being stored for that particular. If we assign a permission to a folder, then those permissions stored on that folder only. And then we say whether it can allow, deny, what type of permission, and to which particular user. Okay. We will discuss about the in and the few others when we will go into that, like systems also I will tell you, but when we will go into that. Okay, now what I wanted to tell you is how will you build and deploy this code. So I was over here and okay, so here I have told you about the CRXDE folders as well. CRXDE and DE light folder structure, and also about also I'm going to tell you about the project. So inside this form, what I did is I just simply commented all the others and just kept what all I need for my this project. Also, what happens is there is a whole lot of interdependencies within this module. Like maybe this module may be dependent on one of the module which we are commenting from not getting built. I know that there is a dependency because I have been using it. So since we commented this, so that is why I will uncomment it. I will comment it, or I will see if there is a dependency. Also, since I commented this IT test because I do not want to write any test cases. So what I will do is I will skip the building as well. So there is a by default command that is maven dot test dot skip, and I will say true, and I will close this. So to this way, it will stop building or stop doing the unit of cases. Okay, this is I'm just doing. Of course, this should not be done on the actual production, but just for this, because I want to fasten my build time, I am commenting all the unnecessary, and also I am commenting the test case. Now, I told you the purpose of each and every folder. Okay, inside the UI apps, if I open the form, so see the form. One thing I would suggest you is to go through the Maven and understand a bit about Maven, its uses, and what is the purpose of Maven and all. Okay. Now every folder there is a form.xml in the parent folder, and every of these folders also will have the form.xml because this is the main configuration file of your Maven. Maven actually when you will write a command for building and deploying your code base, actually it reads form.xml only. So if you will write the command for building and deploy within any other folder, like from this folder, it won't build because there is no form.xml. So a folder that has the form.xml that only can read your build and deployment code. You need to make sure that the configurations for those are there in the form.xml. I will tell you about. So here, this means I have the form.xml over here. Also, I have the form.xml over here inside the core. Also, I have the form.xml inside the UI apps, or in the other folder. Like if I go to UI content, here also it has the form.xml. So does it mean that if I want to build my whole code base, then I can write that build command from here? But if I only make a backend change, or if I only make a component change, then I can even go over here and instead of building the whole code base, I can write that command from here as well. It will only build this and will deploy this only. In that case, the whole code base won't get built, and the target and that zip will not get formed inside the all, but within this UI apps only, the code will be built and will be deployed from here. For here also the zip will be formed, but it will be stored over, it will be over here only. Let me just show it to you. So here, okay, one thing I was doing is inside the form of UI app, there is a dependency which I know, which I have to comment for this code to successfully build. So I know, we just see the UI front end we already commented. So that is why I have to comment this one. Okay. So I know I was aware because I've been using. So UI apps is dependent on the UI front end. So that is why I commented that. And now if I will go now let's come. So what we did is we just commented all the unnecessary modules which we do not. Now let's go back again to our Maven. So our Maven, first step we did, we created our code base and we explained or we got to know what is the purpose of each. Now let's do these things. Firstly, this code build and then code deploy. Okay. To do this, see, either you can cram those commands. That is not at all needed because when you build your code base, you will also get this readme.md command. If you will open this in code in your notepad, it will give you each and every details about your whole code base. See, it tells you UI apps contains the apps and the etc part of the project, that is the JS library component, template, run, what all those. Content contains the sample content using the using the component from the UI. So basically, it contains the sample content. UI test contains the Java bundle containing JUnit test case. UI launch, you can say, you can read, contains the view code that deploys the UI test bundles, okay, to the server and trigger the remote UI exit. UI launcher is somewhere used within the UI test only. Okay, and UI front end is an optional dedicated front end build mechanism for Angular in the general web. So in our case, since we will be using some simple simple JS or CSS, there we can write our code, but it says is you can write your code within the UI apps. But if you are using some complex front-end modules, then you can use this. So this readme.md command will give you information and the commands, each and every detail about your code. So here you see how to build. Can you see my screen? Are you able to follow me?
Yeah.
Okay. So how to build your code base to build all the modules run in the project root directory, the following command with Maven 3. So it says just to build. It doesn't say to deploy. It says to build all the modules run in the project root directory, the following. If you have a running AEM instance, you can build and package, that is the zip, the whole code base and deploy into AEM with this. Maven MVN clean install, then -p auto install package. So this command was doing the building, and this command will do the deployment. So this command will do building and packaging, basically will form the zip. Either you can manually install that zip through the package manager or you can use this one. That is up to you. Yes, no?
Yeah.
Okay. Or see here, the question should be where, on which AEM instance will it deploy? Whether it will deploy on author instance or whether it will deploy on publisher instance. And how will it get to know? Building is okay. Building will be done on my local. But deployment, for deployment, I need to know where is my author running, where is my publisher running. Similarly, here it says to deploy it to the publisher instance, run Maven clean install -p auto install package publish. Or alternatively, you can even provide the port here. So
Okay.
okay. So here, when I open the form, the parent form, sorry, here I told you, I showed you that in the configuration, the ports were here. You can see the ports were localhost 4502 and AEM publish host is localhost and port is 440. So that is why by default this readme command, see, deployment is taken care by this thing or this thing. So it means that somewhere behind the scene, this when I write this auto install package, it would be reading values over from here properties. Got my point?
Hmm.
So if I show you, okay, so see Maven clean install for building and then this is for deploying. If I go over here in the form.xml, which is the main configuration file, if I search this auto install package, which is used for deploying, you can see there is a this thing profile. So here what we said is minus P and the name. Minus P here indicates which profile do you want to run to deploy your code with. So here we have multiple profiles. So this is one of the profile. The upper one is another profile. So auto install package, what it does is it deploys our build package over here. This is our target URL. So the target URL, it makes the use of a configurable value that is em.host and em.port. So if I search for em.host, it will go and in the top, it will see localhost and port is open. In the same way, if I search for this auto install package publish and will search it over here, so it's in the same way, if I will search this auto install package publish, so somewhere it should be using this AEM publish port. If I search, you can see this is another profile. And if I scroll down, what is the target URL? It is AEM publish host and AEM publish port. If I search over here, and you can see the URL over which it is deploying that zip is CRX pack manager. Again, the pack manager. So either you can install it manually that zip or let this command do. That command will also do the same thing. It will automatically go to the package manager and will install. So if I search, you will see it will install it inside my 450. So that is why AEM says that you use for your local development at least use 450 and 450 so that the default replication configuration and the default code deployment configuration also you do not have to change. So let me always have this readme command handy and let me use this Maven clean install. So what I'm going to do is I went inside this parent folder, Maven told you, let me just clean all everything. Okay. So what I did is I went inside this folder and here as of now you will see that there is no target folder. But let me just enter this command Maven clean install. So what this command will do is it will build your code base. So basically a zip will be formed. Let me just hit this and it will build. Let's just wait for a few minutes and within this you will get your target folder created. So you will see that there is no target folder neither inside the code. Okay, so here you see your target folder get created. Okay, and also inside UI apps, you see your target folder get created. And in a minute, you will see that a zip will be also get formed over here. So just wait. You can see your zip is also formed. You see this zip. This zip is for the UI apps, which will have your components here, basically the apps code. Similarly for content, okay, zip is still not. Okay, see target folder got formed. And the zip is also formed. And if I will go to the parent all, it will also have the target folder formed. And here is the final zip. If I will unzip it, you will see somewhere you will have everything. Like you can see your UI app zip. And somewhere you will have your bundle as well and your UI content as well. So if I go inside the content install, you can see the UI content is over. And somewhere you will have your bundle as well over here in this zip. Again, if I will go, you see your build is success, and it successfully build all your module, your code, your repository structure, your UI app, your UI content, and all are success. And here your target is over here. One way is I can directly go to my package manager and install it. Instead of doing that, let's do one thing. Let's install it using the command. So I will again go to this and I will use this Maven install -p auto install package. And let me just hit this. Yeah. So what it will do is it will again build your code base. So even if I delete, let's say, let me just delete this target. Okay, I deleted this. Even let me go inside the core and delete the target. Delete the target. And let me go inside the UI apps as well and delete the target. No worries, it will again get formed. So I will hit this because I'm again building my code base and using the command to install it as well. Okay, so let's wait and you will see in a minute. Okay, your target is formed. And in a minute, you will see your zip will also be formed inside the UI app. So of course, the final zip will be inside the parent, that is the all. So here you can see it over here. And here you will see, in a minute, you will see the target it will form over here. And also then once the target will form, it will also deploy. So inside the package manager, you will see all your zips over here. Well, here you can see Tojo UI content, Tojo UI apps. Here you have the target and here you have everything. And it has also deployed it over here. So your command is successful. It has built your code base and also deployed because you can see it over here. Now, if I go to the CRXD inside the UI apps, let me do a refresh over here and just try to see where is your Tojo. It's over here. Everything is over here. See, when you build a code base, when you create a content, when you create a code base from scratch by using the Maven archetype command. Okay, I will give you this Maven archetype command. When you build your code base, it creates your whole code base from scratch. And also, when I went inside the UI app, it gave me so much of default dummy code. So here inside the UI apps, if I will go inside apps, you will see these are the three folders. MSM. So here you will see the Tojo, and somewhere you would should here is the MSM, and here is the third, that is Sling. So Sling is the third one. So let's try to find where is Sling. So Sling should also be somewhere over here. See. Okay, it should be. I don't know if there's some. Okay. Okay. One thing, let me tell you one more thing. Okay. So now you have the UI content over here. The UI content also you installed. So where inside if I go to sites, you can see your Tojo project is over here. Okay, you can see it over here. Now, what you can do is, now you created a lot of pages. Consider if you created a lot of pages, and again I will do the deployment. What it will do is, it will remove that whole. What my point? It will remove your whole pages because your content will get deployed from your code base, which is not good. Just for one time, you should deploy your content, but not all the time, because from the next time it will remove whatever content that you will create on the server. So what you will do is inside the Tojo, you will go to the pop.xml and you will comment that module, because in future you want that module anymore. So what I will do is you will comment that module. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now let me go inside UI apps, SRC, main, content. Here you have the JCR root apps. Let me create another folder. Let me give it a name as the folder Tojo AEM folder. Okay. And you say that, okay, let me have some components over here and whatever custom component that I will create, I wanted to create over here. Okay. Okay. Now, of course, whatever you will develop over here, let me just copy one thing over here. Let me just copy a component. Like, let me just copy this breadcrumb over here to this Tojo AEM folder. Okay, so what I did is I just copied a folder, another folder. I created a new folder, Tojo AEM, and placed another folder over here. Now, one way is, of course, you can build again the whole code base, and of course, it's going to take 2-3 minutes. Or where even your UI apps, your UI content, your core, all will be built, will be stored inside that all, and then it will be go inside your EM server. But now, as I told you, since you made the changes inside your UI app, why do you want to build every other thing? You have the form.xml over here. Why not build only this? And you have the target over here. You can either manually install this zip, or you can use the same command. So here what I will do is, I will go inside the UI.apps and again write the same command. Maven clean install -p auto install package. So this means it's not necessary that you have to build your whole code base. Even if you make a change in a single module, you can go and build and deploy that module only as well. Okay? But you have to build from the folder where you have the form.xml. Always remember, if you have the form.xml, then only you can build your code base from there and deploy your code base. Because when you write build Maven clean install, this command Maven MVN clean install -p auto install package, somewhere the configuration for these are written inside the form.xml. Okay, so if I will write this, and here we created this folder inside the JCR root, I have this apps, this folder, so it should get deployed to our AEM server. Here it's getting deployed. Okay, it's building and the deployment is success. So inside the UI app, you should be able to see, but you won't be able to see. You still won't be able to see. Here you can see the Tojo is over here, but Tojo minus AEM is not over here. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Now, this theory of building a code base from within an individual folder is always correct. So this is correct that you can go inside the UI app and you can build it from here. So, okay, this is correct. But why our code base is not, the new folder is shown? Because what AEM says is, whatever code you want to deploy, it's not that you can directly go and create it over here. Like I went inside the JCR root and I created over here. But you also need to specify it inside a configuration file that, okay, this is a new folder which I wanted to create inside the app. It's just with the apps thing. So any new folder that you create inside the app, you have to explicitly tell it in your code base that you want it inside the app. So here inside the content, you have the ACR root where you create your new folder, but inside meta-nf, you have your filter.xml. Inside your filter.xml, actually, you have to mention which new folder is here. So what was the name of that new? It was Tojo minus AM. So Tojo minus AM is also what you have to mention inside your filter.xml. Now, if I will again go and do a Maven clean install -p auto install package, you would see in a minute your code will be your new folder with that breadcrumb module would be over here. Okay, let me just see. Okay, it's success, and let me do a refresh. You can see Tojo AEM over here and the breadcrumb.
Okay.
So remember, in case if you want something you are building but it's not there in your server, check the filter.xml. So filter.xml. See, in case if you're building and you do not, you have to mention it inside the filter.xml. In the same way, we either can comment this whole UI content module from the parent.xml here in the parent.xml form.xml, sorry. So one way was that inside the parent.xml, you can comment the whole module. Okay, the other way is, consider that you think, okay, see, this UI content has a lot of other things as well. Inside the content, you have the JCR root. See, here also it has the meta. So here it has the conf and content. You say that, okay, I want the conf to go from my code base, but not the content. So what you can do is you can go inside the meta and have called inside the filter. Again, it has the filter. So here you can comment. So here you can keep the conf as it is, but comment the rest of the things. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So this is another way. That instead of just commenting the whole module, you can comment some parts.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So this is what we did today is we created our code base and we deployed it over here. So the next time, let's say, now I commented my child, over here I commented this content. Here if I will create a new file, here if I create a new page, and if I will again deploy my new code, let's say so here I will select a template for creating a page. I will select a template. Let me just select this content page. I don't know what this template does. These are the font templates which are provided.
Mm-hmm.
My new page. So there and open. And here, if you will do anything, you can do what I wanted to show you. If you will go inside your UI apps, so this, if I inside, not inside the UI, but UI dot content. Okay. Now I am here inside the UI content. If I will again write that command, see, but here now my pages will not go, my new pages that I created will not go, and it will still stay there because my conf hierarchy will be only the code from my conf hierarchy is mine. You see, this is over here. But the time I will uncomment this, see, I uncommented this. Okay. And now if I will deploy this code, now I said not only the conf, but also my content hierarchy should also go from my code base. And now if I will again deploy my code, you will see a new page that you created, this new page, it will get disappeared because your code will override it.
Okay.
Because from code you do not have that page, and neither content should be a part of your code base because content should always be a part of your server. Now in a minute, once it will be deployed, okay, I deployed the UI content. You can see UI content. And now if I will refresh it, you will see you. Okay, so it's still there. Oh, it's still there. They're gone. Just a minute. If I miss one. I uncommented the. Oh, its mode is merge. Okay, so I
Oh,
didn't.
that
It
is the
means
reason.
it's merging. Yeah. Let me do this. Let me just try this and now do it. Let me just try this. Thing is
That side also.
sorry, come again.
XML, do you save or auto save maybe?
Yeah, I saved it. I just saved. That's it. Yeah, it's success. Let me just refresh it now. Yeah, it's gone now. Okay, so here you can do this thing. So here the main thing is, well, I will make sure. Okay, uh, uh, I uh, I told you about the different uh, uh, usage of these different folders,
Hmm.
all for these dispatchers and all,
Hmm.
and the different folders over here. Your code, whatever you are deploying, will go over here.
Hmm.
And apps or content. Of course, you won't prefer to go it inside content, but everything should go inside
Yeah.
the app. All the AEM code will go inside the libs and
Yeah.
some inside the etc. Your
Yeah.
configurations and your templates are created inside the conf. So the
Yeah.
template that we just used for creating our page, you remember we used a template. So somewhere it would be sitting below the conf hierarchy. So conf, maybe inside Tojo, you would have some your those components. So here you can template. So here you can see these templates. So somewhere over here you will have those templates somewhere like the
Some
page content. You have
page templates, right?
yeah page templates. Basically these are templates only.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.